Glories to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta Madhya Lila, Chapter 16, Text 204. Raghava Pandita Si Prabhula Nagila Pateyaite Loka Pide Kaste Shrishti Aila. At length, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taken away by Raghava Pandit. There was a great crowd assembled along the way, and the Lord reached Raghava Pandit's residence with great difficulty. 205. Ekadina Prabhutata Kariya Nivasa Rate Kumara Hataila Yahan Srinivasa. Translation. The Lord stayed at Raghava Pandit's place for only one day. The next morning he went to Kumarahata, where Srivas Thakur lived. Purport. The present name of Kumarahata is Halishahara. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas, Srivas Thakur left Navadvip due to separation from him and went to Halishahara to live. From Kumarahata, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Kanchanapali, also known as Kanchadapada, where Shivananda Sena lived. After staying 2 days at Shivananda's house, the Lord went to the house of Vasudeva Datta. From there he went to the western side of Navadvip to the village called Vidyanagar. From Vidyanagar he went to Kulia Gram and stayed at Madhava Dasa's house. He stayed there 1 week and excused the offenses of Devananda and others. Due to Kaviraj Goswami's mentioning the name of Shanti Puracharya, some people think that Kulia is a village near Kanchadapada. Due to this mistaken idea, they invented another place known as New Kuliyarapata. Actually, such a place does not exist. Leaving the house of Vasudeva Datta, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the house of Advaita Acharya. From there, he went to the western side of Navadvip, to Vidyanagar, and stayed at the house of Vidya Vachaspati. These accounts are given in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mangala, Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka, and Chaitanya Charita Kavya. Srila Kaviraj Goswami has not vividly described this entire tour. Therefore, on the basis of Chaitanya Charitamrta, some unscrupulous people have invented a place called Kuliyarapata, near Kanchadapada. Text 206. Tahan hoite agegela Shivananda gara Vasudeva grudhe pache Aila Ishvara. From the house of Srivas Thakur, the Lord went to the house of Shivananda Sena, and then to the house of Vasudeva Datta. 207. Vachaspati grudhe prabhu ye mate rahila lokabida baye yaiche kuliya aila. The Lord remained some time at the house of Vidya Vachaspati, but then, because it was too crowded, he went to Kulia. Purport. The house of Vidya Vachaspati was located at Vidyanagar, which was near Koladvip, or Kulia. It was here that Devananda Pandit was residing. This information is found in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Kanda, chapter 21. In the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka, the following statement is given about Kulia. Tata Kumarahate Srivas Pandit Vacham Adhya Yayo. From there the Lord went to the house of Srivas Pandit in Kumarahata. Tato Dvaita Vitim Abhyetya Haridasena Vibhanditas. Tathaiva Tarani Vartmana Navadvipasya pare kulya nama grame Madhava dasa bhatyam utir navan. Evam sapta dinani tatra stitva punastata vartmana eva chalitavan. From the house of Srivasacharya, the Lord went to the house of Advaita Acharya, where he was offered obeisances by Haridas Thakur. The Lord then took a boat to the other side of Navadvip to a place called Kulia, where he stayed 7 days at the house of Madhava Das. Then proceeded along the banks of the proceeded along the banks of the Ganges. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta Madhya, it is stated, Anye duya sa Shri Navadvip Bhume Hare Gangan Paschime Kvapi Deshe Shriman Sarva Praninam Tat Angar Nitranan Nandam Samyag Agatchetene. The Lord went to the western side of the Ganges at Navadvip, and everyone was pleased to see the Lord coming. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya Kanda, chapter 3, it is stated, Sarva Parishada Sange Shri Gura Sundara Achambite Yasi Utar Ila Tandra Gara. The Lord suddenly came to Vidyanagar with a full party and stayed there in the house of Vidya Vachaspati. Navadvipadi Sarvadike Hailadvani. Thus, throughout Navadvip, the Lord's arrival was made known. Vachaspati Gare Aila Nyasi Chudamani. Thus, the chief of all the sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, arrived at the house of Vidya Vachaspati, as further stated. Ananta or Buddha Loka Bali Hari Hari Jali Lena Dekhi Bhare Kuranga Shri Hari Patha Nahi Payakeho Okera Gahale Banhadhala Banki Loka Dasadike Chale Okera Gahale Yata Aranya Achila Chane Kisa Kala Devya Patha Maya Haila Chanai ke aila saba loka kiya gate kiyari kari te para padila sankate sarvari ashila bachas pati mahashaya karilena anekanau kara sumuchaya nukara ap kshe ara keho nahi kare nanamate parahaya ye mate pare Henamate Ganga Para Hai Sarva Jana Sabedhara Nina Bachas Patira Charana Mukhanage La Prabhuku Viya Nagara Kuliyaya Ailena Vai Kunta Ispara Sarva Loka Haribali Vachaspati Sange Seichane Sabhe Chali Nina Maharange Kuliyana Gare Ailen Nanyasimani Seichane Sarvadike Haila Mahadvani Sabe Ganga Madhye Nari Yaya Kuliyaya Suni Matra Sarvaloke Mahadnande Daya Vachaspati Ragrame Chilayate Kagahala Tarakoti Koti Gune Purila Sakala Laksha Nokava Aila Kota Hoite Ajani Katika Para Haya Katamate Laksha Lokabase Janai Virajale Sabe Para Hayena Parama Kutuhale Gangaya Hana Parapana Apani Kola Koli Kari Sabe Kare Haridvani Shane ke kuliya grama nagara prantara paripurna haila stala nahi avasara Shane ke haila mashaya vachaspati tinho nahi payena prabhura kotastiti kuliyaya prakashe yateka papichila utuma madhyamanicha sabhari parahaila Kuliya Gramite Yasi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nahi Hare Prabhu Nukhari Ladanya. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Vidya Vachaspati's house, many hundreds of thousands of people went to see him and chant the holy name of Hari. It was so crowded that people could not even find a place to walk. Therefore, they made room by clearing out the jungles near the village. Many roads were automatically excavated, and many people also came by boat to see the Lord. So many came that it was difficult for the boatmen to get them across the river. When Vidya Vachaspati suddenly arrived, he made arrangements for many boats to receive these people, but the people would not wait for the boats. Somehow or other they crossed the river and hurried toward the house of Vidya Vachaspati. Due to this great crowd, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu secretly went to Kulia Nagara. After the Lord left Vidyanagar, however, all the people heard news of his leaving. They then accompanied Vachaspati to Kulia Nagara. Since the news of the Lord's arrival was immediately broadcast, large crowds arrived and greeted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great jubilation. Indeed, when the crowd went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it increased 10,000 times in number. No one could say how many people crossed the river to see him, but many hundreds of thousands made their great tumult when crossing the river Ganges. After crossing the river, everyone began to embrace one another because they heard good news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's arrival. Thus all the inhabitants of Kulia, the sinful, intermediate, and spiritually advanced, were delivered and glorified by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As stated in the Chaitanya Bhagavata, Antya Kanda chapter 6, Kanayoda Bhagda Gachi Arado Gachiya Kanda Opa Rakabu Vayena Kuliya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed through Kanayoda, Bhadagachi, and Dogachiya, and then crossed the Ganges before arriving in Kulia. As stated in the Chaitanya Mangala, Ganga Snana Kari Prabhu Radha Desha Diya Krame Krame Utarila Nagara Kulia Mayera Chane Puna Gila Navadvipa Marokona Gata Nija Vadera Samupa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walked through Radha Desha and gradually arrived at the Ganges. After bathing in the river, he crossed it and went to Kulia. Because he had promised his mother he could return to Navadvip, he went to Varokonagata, a village near his house. In the commentary of Premadasa, it is said, Nadiyada Madhya Kane Sakala Loketa Jane Kuliya Prabhadhura Jane Kuliya Prahara Puranamestana. Everyone knows that in the middle of Nadia is a village named Kulia Prahadapura. Sri Narahari Chakravarti, or Ganashyama Das, has written in his Bhakti Ratnakara, Kuliya Prahadapura Dekha Srinivasa Urve Kola Dvipa Parva Takya Eprechara. He said, O Srinivas, just see the town of Kulia Prahadpura, which was previously known as Koladweep. In a book named Navadweep Dham Parikram, also written by Ghanashyam Das, it is stated Kulia Prahadapura Ramapurve Koladvipa Parvataka Yadandanahama. The town of Kulia Prahadapura was previously named Koladweep Parvatakyananda. Therefore, one can conclude that this present-day city of Navadvip and the places known as Bahiradvip, Kolera, Ganja, Kolananda, Kolera Daha, Gadakali, etc., were known as Kulia. But the so-called Kulia Pata is not the original Kulia. (208) Madhava Dasa Gridhe Tata Sachira Nandana Chakoti Loka Tata Pailadara Shana. When the Lord stayed at the house of Madhava Dasa, many hundreds of thousands of people came to see him. Madhava Dasa, this is the purport. Madhava Dasa as identified as follows. In the family of Srikara Chattopadhyaya, Yudhishthira, Chattopadhyaya took his birth. Formerly, he and his family members lived in Bilva Grama and Patuli. From there he went to Kulya Bahadapura, formerly known as Padapura. The eldest son of Yudhishthira Chattopadhyaya was known as Madhava Das. The second son was called Haridas, and the youngest son was called Krishna Samapati Chattopadhyaya. The three brothers' nicknames were Chakadi, Tinakadi, and Dukadi. The grandson of Madhava Das was named Vamsivadana, and during the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his grandson Ramachandra and their descendants were still living at Bhagnapada or Vainichi. 209. Satadina rahitata lokanistarila sabha aparadhigane prakaritarila. The Lord stayed there for 7 days and delivered all kinds of offenders and sinners. 210. Shanti Pura Charya Grudhe Aiche Shanti Pura Charya Grudhe Aiche Aila Sachimata Mili Tamra Dukha Kandhaila. After leaving Kulya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the house of Advaita Acharya at Shantipur. It was there that the Lord's mother Sachimata met him and was thus relieved from her great unhappiness. 211. Tabe Rama Keli Grame Prabhu Yaiche Gela Natasha La Harte Prabhu Unaha Piri Aila. The Lord then visited the village known as Ramakeli and the place known as Kanhai Natashala. From there he returned to Shantipur. Text 212. Shantipure Punakaila Dasadina Vasa Istari Varni Yachena Vrindavana Dasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in Shantipur for 10 days. This has all been described very elaborately by Vrindavan Das Thakur. 213. Ateva ihantara na kailun vishtatara punarukti haya granta vadhaye apara. I will not narrate these incidents because they have already been described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. There is no need to repeat the same information, for such repetition would unlimitedly increase the size of his book. 214 through 215. Tara madhye milila yaiche rupa sanatana Nrisimhananda kaila yeche patera sajana Sutra madhye se lila abhita parnilun Ateva punahataha ihadna likilun. Those narrations tell how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met the brothers Rupa and Sanatan, and how Narasimhananda decorated the road. I have already described these in an earlier synopsis of this book. Therefore, I will not repeat the narrations here. This information is given in Adi Lila 10.35 and Madhya Lila 1.155 through 162 and 175 through 226. (216) Punarapi Prabhuyari Shantipura Aila Raghunatha Dasa Asi Prabhure Lila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Shantipur, Raghunath Das came to meet him. (217) Hiranya Govardhana Duvi Sahodhara Saptagrame Bara Laksha Uttrara Isvara. Two brothers named Hiranya and Govardhan were two who were residents of Saptagram, had an annual income of 1,200,000 rupees. Purport. Hiranya and Govardhan were inhabitants of Saptagram in the district of Hooghly. Actually, they were inhabitants not of Saptagram, but of a village, of a nearby village named Krishnapura. They took their birth in a big Kayastha family, and although their family title has not been ascertained, it is known that they came from an aristocratic family. Their elder brother's name was Hiranya Madhumadara, and the younger brother's name was Govardhan Madhumadara. Sri Raghunath Das was the son of Govardhan Madhumadara. Their family priest was Balaramacharya, who was a favorite of Haridas Thakur's. And the family's spiritual master was Yadunanadana Acharya, a favorite of Vasudev Datta's. The village of Saptagram is located on the Eastern Railway from Calcutta to Burdwan, and presently the railway station is called Trishadvigha. In those days there was a large river there, known as Saraswati, and present-day Trishadvigha is a great port. In 1592, the Pathanas invaded, and due to a flooding of the Saraswati River, in the year 1632, this great port was partially destroyed. It is said that in the 17th and 18th centuries, Portuguese businessmen used to come aboard their ships. In those days, Saptagram, situated on the southern side of Bengal, was very rich and popular. The merchants who were the principal residents were called Saptagram Suvarna Vaniks. There were very many rich people there, and Hiranya Madhumadara and Govardhan Madhumadara belonged to the Kayastha community. They were also very rich, so much so that it is mentioned in this verse that their annual income as landlords amounted to 1,200,000 rupees. In this connection, one may refer to Adi Lila, chapter 11, verse 41, which describes Udharana Datta, who also belonged to the Saptagrami Suvarna Vanik community. (218) Mahayishvarya Yukta Dunhe Vadanya Brahmanya Sadhachari Satkulina Dharmika Graganya. Both Hiranya Madhumadara and Govardhan Madhumadara were very opulent and magnanimous. They were well behaved and devoted to Brahminical culture. They belonged to an aristocratic family, and among religionists they were predominant. 219. Nadiya Vasi Brahmanera Upajivya Praya Arthabhumi Gramadiya Karena Sahaya. Practically all the Brahmins residing in Nadia were dependent on the charity of Hiranya and Govardhan, who gave them money, land, and villages. Purport. Although Navadvip was very opulent and populous during Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, practically all the Brahmanas depended on the charity of Hiranya and Govardhan. Because the brothers highly respected the Brahmanas, they very liberally gave them money. (220) Nilambara Chakravarti Aradhya Dhunhara Chakravarti Kare Dhunhaya Vratir Vyavadhara. Nilambar Chakravarti, the grandfather of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was much worshipped by the two brothers, but Nilambar Chakravarti used to treat them as his own brothers. 221. Mishra Puran Dharera Purve Karya Chena Sevane Ateva Prabhu Bhala Jane Dui Jane. Formerly, these two brothers had rendered much service to Mishra Purandara, the father of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of this, the Lord knew them very well. (222) Sehi Govardhanera Putra Raghunatha Dasa Vayakala Hoite Tenho Vishaye Udasa. Raghunath Das was the son of Govardhan Majumdara. From childhood, he was uninterested in material enjoyment. Sanyasakari Prabhu Yabeshanti Sanyasakari Prabhu Yabeshanti Pura Aila Abheyasi Raghunatha Prabhu Re Lila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Shantipur after accepting the renounced order, Raghunath Das met him. 224. Prabhura charane pare pramavistahana Prabhupada sparsha kaila karuna kariya. When Raghunath Das went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he fell at the Lord's lotus feet in ecstatic love. Showing him mercy, the Lord touched him with his feet. 225. Tandrapita sadhakare acharya sevana Ateva charya tandre paila parashana. Raghunath Das's father, Govardhan, always rendered much service to Advaita Acharya. Consequently, Advaita Acharya was very pleased with the family. 226. Acharya prashade paila prabhura uchistapata prabhura charana deke ina panchasata. When Raghunath Das was there, Advaita Acharya favored him by giving him the food remnants left by the Lord. Raghunath Das was thus engaged for 5 or 7 days in rendering service to the Lord's lotus feet. 227. Prabhu Tandre Vidhaya Diya Gela Nila Chala Tinho Gare Asi Haila Trinete Bagala. After bidding farewell to Raghunath Das, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. After returning home, Raghunath Das became mad with ecstatic love. 228. Bara bara palaya tenho nila briyaite pita tandre bandhirake ani pata hoite. Raghunath Das used to run away from home again and again to go to Jagannath Puri, but his father kept binding him and bringing him back. 229. Panchapaika tandre rake ratri dine chari seva kadhuhi brahmanarahe tandrasane. His father even had 5 watchmen guard him day and night. 4 personal servants were employed to look after his comfort, and 2 brahmanas were employed to cook for him. 230. Ekadasa janatandre rake nirantara nilachala yoite napaya dukkita antara. In this way, 11 people were incessantly keeping Raghunath Das under control. Thus, he could not go to Jagannath Puri, and because of this, he was very unhappy. 231. Eveyari Mahaprabhu Shantipura Aila Suniya Pitare Raghunathani Vedila. When Raghunath Das learned that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived at Shantipur, he submitted a request to his father. 232. Agyadeha Yanadeki Prabhura Charana Anyata Nara He Mora Sarire Jivana. Raghunath Das asked his father, "Please give me permission to go see the lotus feet of the Lord. If you do not, my life will not remain within this body." 233. Sunitandra Pita Bahu Lokadravya Hataila Bali Sigra Asiha Puriya. Hearing this request, Raghunath Das's father agreed. Giving him many servants and materials, the father sent him to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, requesting him to return soon. 234. Satadina Shantipure Prabhu Sange Rahe Rati Divase E Mana Kata Kahe. For 7 days, Raghunath Das associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shantipur. During those days and nights, he had the following thoughts. 235. Rakshakera hate muni ke mane chutiba ke mane prabhura sange nila chale yaba. Raghunath Das thought, how shall I be able to get free from the hands of the watchman? How shall I be able to go with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Nilachala? 236. Sarvagyat Goranga Prabhu Jani Tandra Mana Siksharupe Kahe Tandre Asvasa Vachana. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was omniscient, he could understand Raghunath Das's mind. The Lord therefore instructed him with the following reassuring words. 237. Stirahana Gareyau Ahau Bhatula Krame Krame Paya Loka Ava Sindhu Kula. Be patient and return home. Don't be a crazy fellow. By and by, you will be able to cross the ocean of material existence. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.58. Samastrita ye pada palaba pabam mahat param punya yaso murarahe mabam budir vatsa padam param param padam param yad vid param vipadam natisham. This material world is just like a big ocean. It begins with Brahmaloka and extends to Pataloka. There are many planets or islands in this ocean. Not knowing about devotional service, the living entity wanders about this ocean, just as man tries to swim to reach the shore. Our struggle for existence is similar to this. Everyone is trying to get out of the ocean of material existence. One cannot immediately reach the coast, but if one endeavors, he can cross the ocean by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. One may be very eager to cross this ocean, but he cannot attain success by acting like a madman. He must swim over the ocean very patiently and intelligently under the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his representative. Then one day, he will reach the shore and return home back to Godhead. 238. Markata Bharagyana Kara Loka Dekana Yata Yogya Vishaya Bhunja Anashakta Khana. You should not make yourself a show bottle devotee and become a false renunciate. For the time being, enjoy the material world in a befitting way and do not become attached to it. Purport. The word Markata Vairagya, indicating false renunciation, is very important in this verse. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in commenting on this word, points out that monkeys make an external show of renunciation by not accepting clothing and by living naked in the forest. In this way, they consider themselves renunciates, but actually they are very busy enjoying sense gratification with dozens of female monkeys. Such renunciation is called Markata Vairagya, the renunciation of a monkey. One cannot be really renounced until one actually becomes disgusted with material activity and sees it as a stumbling block to spiritual advancement. Renunciation should not be falgu, temporary, but should exist throughout one's life. Temporary renunciation or monkey renunciation is like the renunciation one feels at a cremation ground. When a man takes a dead body to the crematorium, he sometimes thinks, this is the final end of the body. Why am I working so hard day and night? Such sentiments naturally arise in the mind of any man who goes to a crematorial ghat. However, as soon as he returns from the cremation grounds, he again engages in material activity for sense enjoyment. This is called Smasana Vairagya or Markata Vairagya. In order to render service to the Lord, one may accept the necessary things. If one lives in this way, he may actually become renounced. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.108, it is said, Yavata Shat Svaniradaha Svikuryat Tabhad Artavit Adhike Nyunyatyamcha Shavate Paramartata. The bare necessities of life must be accepted, but one should not superfluously increase his necessities, nor should they be unnecessarily decreased. One should simply accept what is necessary to help one advance spiritually. In his Durgama Sangamani, Sri Jiva Goswami comments that the word Svanirvaha actually means Svasva Bhakti Nirvaha. The experienced devotee will accept only those material things that will help him render service to the Lord. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.256, Markata Vairagya or Falgu Vairagya is explained as follows. Prapanchikatya Bhujya Hari Sambhani Vastuna Mumkshubihi Parityago Vairagyam Falgu Kalpyate. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. Whatever is favorable for the rendering of service to the Lord should be accepted and should not be rejected as a material thing. Yukta Vairagya, or befitting renunciation, is thus explained. Anasaktasya Vishan Yatarham Upayunjata Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchayate. Things should be accepted for the Lord's service and not for one's personal sense gratification. If one accepts something without attachment and accepts it because it is related to Krishna, one's renunciation is called Yukta Vairagya. Since Krishna is the absolute truth, whatever is accepted for his service is also the absolute truth. The word Markata Vairagya is used by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to indicate so-called Vaishnavas who dress themselves in loincloths trying to imitate Srila Rupa Goswami. Such people carry a bead bag and chant, but at heart they are always thinking about getting women and money. Unknown to others, these Markata Vairagyas maintain women but externally present themselves as renunciates. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very much opposed to these Markata Vairagyas, or pseudo-Vaishnavas. (239) Antade nistya kara bhaye loka vyabhara achira Krishna to maya karibe udhara. Translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, within your heart you should keep yourself very faithful, but externally you may behave like an ordinary man. Thus Krishna will soon be very pleased and deliver you from the clutches of Maya. 240. Vrindavana deki yabe asiva nilachale tabe tumi amapasha ashiha konachale. You may see me at Nilachala Jagannath Puri when I return after visiting Vrindavan. By that time you can think of some trick to escape. 241. Se chala se kale Krishna surarabe tumare Krishna kripayan retare kera kite pare. What kind of means will you have to use at that time will be revealed by Krishna. If one has Krishna's mercy, no one can check him. Purport. Although Srila Raghunath Das was very anxious to join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord advised him to wait for the mercy of Lord Krishna. He recommended that Raghunath Das keep his Krishna consciousness firmly fixed in his heart, while externally behaving like an ordinary man. This is a trick for everyone advanced in Krishna consciousness. One can live in society like an ordinary human being, but at the same time one's own business should be to satisfy Krishna and spread his glories. A Krishna-conscious person should not be absorbed in material things, for his only business is in the devotional service of the Lord. If one is engaged in this way, Krishna will certainly bestow his mercy. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Raghunath Das, Yatha Yogya Vishaya Bunja Anashakta Hana. The same is repeated. Antare Nista Kara Bhahe Loka Vyabhara. This means that one must have no desire within his heart other than to serve Krishna. On the basis of such a conviction, one can cultivate Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.200. Laukiki Vaidiki Vapi Yakriya Kriyate Mune. Laukiki Vaidiki Vapi Yakriya Kriyate Mune. Hari Sevan Kulai Vasa Karya Bhaktim Ichataha. A devotee may act as an ordinary human being or as a strict follower of Vedic injunctions. In either case, everything he does is favorable for the advancement of devotional service because he is in Krishna consciousness. (242) Etakahi Mahaprabhu Tanre Vedaya Dila Radeyasi Mahaprabhura Siksha Acharila. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to Raghunath Das, who returned home and did exactly what the Lord told him. 243. Bahya Vairagya Vatulata Sakala Chadiya Yatayogya Karya Kare Anashakta Hana. After returning home, Raghunath Das gave up all craziness and external pseudo-renunciation and engaged in his household duties without attachment. Dekhi Tanra Pita Mata Bhada Shuka Paila Tanhara Abharana Kichu Sithila Haila. When Raghunath Das's father and mother saw that their son was acting like a householder, they became very happy. Because of this, they slackened their guard. Purport. When Raghunath Das's father and mother saw that their son was no longer acting like a crazy fellow and was responsibly attending to his duties, they became very happy. The 11 people, 5 watchmen, 4 personal servants, and 2 brahmanas, who were guarding him became less strict in their vigilance. When Raghunath Das actually took up his household affairs, his parents reduced the number of guards. Thus ends our reading for today. All glories to Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.